I happened to come across Kratom in a chronic pain group. I started doing some research in the days that I was lucid because I had one doctor having me on to 11 prescriptions, one being the highest dose of a fentanyl patch. When I could not keep down the medications, my doctor did what? We didn't reevaluate the medications. He gave me it so I could keep all the other medications down. So it was really bad. I started taking Kratom after I researched it. I asked my doctor, what do you think? I've heard a lot of great things about it, so give it a whirl. I've been an advocate ever since I started taking it. It got me out of the bed. My kids were little when I became a chronic pain patient. They were all in elementary school. It was pretty bad here. Mom would be downstairs crying on the couch because my husband had to get up in the morning. So I would be on the couch crying at night. So they had to have their fans on just so they could sleep to be ready for school the next day.
Is something standing between you and your happiness? It was for me. I had to face my depression and the constant negative self-talk. Therapy helped me realize I deserve to be happy. That's why this podcast is called I Choose Health, because I made the choice to heal and I want to share that with you. As a gift to you, we've partnered with BetterHelp as our sponsor to help you start your own healing journey. We all face moments when life feels overwhelming, whether it's stress, anxiety, or just feeling stuck. Talking to someone can make a real difference. And that's where our sponsor BetterHelp comes in. BetterHelp offers professional online therapy that's convenient, affordable, and entirely on your schedule. You can connect with a licensed therapist by video, phone, or even chat, whatever works best for you. Let our sponsor BetterHelp support you on your journey to better mental health. You can get 10% off your first month by going to betterhelp.com/iChooseHealth. That's betterhelp.com/iChooseHealth for 10% off your first month. Take the first step toward feeling better today.
As a teenager, I decided to live better, so I gave up the meat, eggs, and cheddar. At 20 and 30, I wanted more, so I strengthened my mind and my core. Living a life that is healthier and wealthier because I choose health.
So ever since the Ray Saltus episode on cannabis, it's been really interesting because I've gotten a lot of requests and emails from people that shows me that this podcast has been teaching me a lot of things. And so I remember just a couple weeks ago or months ago when Morgan Smith, who's the CEO of Calm with Kava, reached out to me to be on a podcast. I had no idea what Kava was. And so now today we're moving on from Kava to another resource of healing, another resource or tool that we can use. So today we want to talk about something known as Kratom, or however we want to pronounce it, Kratom. And so I have with me today someone who, through her own experiences, has become an advocate for the use of it, particularly to keep it in the toolbox of things that, may be necessary for dealing with healing, dealing with pain. And so I want to welcome to the show Melody Woolf. Melody Woolf, welcome to the I Choose Health podcast. So Melody, just give us a background because, as I said, I had no idea what Kratom was until your email. So what is Kratom and how can it be helpful, specifically to people who may have certain ailments or pains? How can it be of benefit to them?
I've been a pain patient for over 20 years. I spent 8 of those years bedridden, often needing a walker and wheelchair. And just my kids were little when I became a chronic pain patient. They were all in elementary school. And it was pretty bad here. They had to have fans on in their room at night because Mom would be downstairs crying on the couch because my husband had to get up in the morning. So I would be on the couch crying at night. And so they had to have their fans on just so they could sleep to be ready for school the next day. And that's no way to grow up. To describe our home dismal, sugarcoating it a lot. I happened to come across Kratom in a chronic pain group because Facebook has a lot of support groups for people in chronic pain. And I started doing some research in the days that I was lucid because I had one doctor having me on to 11 prescriptions, one being the highest dose of a fentanyl patch. Then when I could not keep down the medications, my doctor did what? We didn't reevaluate the medications. He gave me another one so I could keep all the other medications down. And so it was really bad. I started taking Kratom after I researched it. I asked my doctor, what do you think? He said, I've heard a lot of great things about it. So give it a whirl, is exactly what he said. And I've been an advocate ever since I started taking it. It got me out of bed and healthy again. I went from like 220. I'm now 135. And it's from because I could get out of bed and exercise and do things that are good for my health. And then 2022 came along with COVID. My daughter's childcare closed down just 2 weeks before she went off maternity leave, and there was no daycare to be had anywhere. So she asked me to move in with them and to provide full-time childcare. So the kratom from this tree in Indonesia, it's a deciduous tree. It's probably about, I think it's 16 feet tall or something like that. It's in the coffee bean family. Natural form, you just dry the leaves up and ground it into a powder. And some people put it in capsules. I just mix it with hot water and drink it as quick as I can because it just tastes awful. And so I've been advocating it ever since, and my whole family approves of it. You know, besides wanting their mom out of pain, they don't want me to lose access. They don't want to see me in that much pain again. Their one regret is that I didn't find it until my youngest was in high school. So they didn't have a mom growing up. I lost my kids' childhoods and I just lost everything. I don't have pictures of me and my kids because I was bedridden and I just was in no shape to do anything. In 2022, I provide the child care for my granddaughter. And I pushed her around in a stroller at the Detroit Zoo for 3 or 4 hours, the very same zoo where my kids had to push me around in a wheelchair. So it's pretty awesome that I get to conquer the zoo every summer. Last summer, I provided 4 months of child care for my 3.5-year-old granddaughter. And so I chased her around that zoo. We went every Friday to the zoo and every Monday to the library. So it's just been nothing but positive for our family. The only negative thing is that I have to spend my entire day trying to keep access to it. There are 75 million chronic pain patients. So it means people have basically a 1 in 6 chance of becoming a chronic pain patient. And now that we have the untalked about opioid crisis, the undertreatment of pain, people are suffering. Millions of people are suffering. And I'm trying to keep it legal. So it opens up another line of inquiry. It's not for everybody, but I think everybody should know about it and be able to talk to their doctor about it.
So, Melody, it sounds like, Kratom provided a lot of great benefits for you. And beyond that, it gave you and your family a life, mobility, fun times, happy times. And now you said you are having to fight for it. What is happening right now, specifically at a judicial level, that is creating this barrier or this issue in regards to access to Kratom?
There is a kratom metabolite. It's not present. It's called 7-OH. I can't pronounce it. I'll call it 7-OH. Most people call it 7 or 7-OH. And it can occur, though not always, during the drying process. It's kind of like the kratom keeps reacting with itself after it's dried. And in just that form, if it happens naturally during the drying process, it's an insignificant amount that doesn't affect consumers. But what's happened is that unscrupulous people have taken that little bit of the metabolite in there and they synthesize it into a full agonist, which people at the national levels, and when I say people, I mean the scientists, not the regulators, believe it's legal morphine. And so people are often confusing that with kratom because they hear kratom metabolite, especially the media. They put kratom in fed crosshairs. But then you look at the body of the article and it's about the 7-OH that they're referring to. And it just gets conflated. I participated in a national press conference with the HHS and the FDA, they were extremely clear. We're not after the unadulterated products. We are after the 7-OH. And even though they've been crystal clear about it, they even did a little 2-minute segment. We are not going after Kratom. Because of that press conference, it seems to have lit a lot of local fires across the United States. And so we're having to go and do the education, but sometimes we can't get there fast enough and local bans go through because the two are conflated. And a lot of times it's not on purpose. Check out my smoke shops, make sure that they have an age gate at the door, that the kratom's behind a glass, locked, and so forth. And sometimes I will purchase at my smoke shops just to see what they're doing. And I asked for kratom, and they handed me 7-OH. I said, that's not kratom. And the clerk, what? I didn't know that. What is it then? So then I was able to do some education. But that seems to be the main problem right now.
So it definitely seems like there's some misunderstanding. And, besides what are other ways? Because I'm imagining that social media is also playing a role in the
Yeah.
misunderstanding. But I could see how it would also play a role in clearing up the misunderstanding. Like what would it take? Would it take things like this platform or, like other information platforms to really help to get rid of all that misinformation?
I think platforms like the one that you're having me on right now, because, unfortunately, the media has become about clickbait. And so the headline, Kratom and Fed crosshairs, people click. And, then there's negative anchoring biases that when you see that bad headline and you're not taking Kratom, you tend to anchor yourself like you didn't know about it. You tend to anchor yourself to the first piece of information you get about an unknown topic. And so without reading the full article, people aren't understanding it. And on social media, Facebook, there is extreme censorship on Facebook about Kratom. You can buy ads, you can sell Kratom, you can sell 7-OH, but you can't talk about it unless you pay for it.
Interesting. Now, does kratom itself have negative side effects? And I imagine that most things have negative side effects, right?
Yeah.
So, like going back to kava, right? So Morgan was kind enough to send me some samples of his products, and I was using them. And he was saying that the major thing was one of the major things that you would get from kava is something called bruxism, and that's like the clenching of the jaw, right?
Mhm.
Where it kind of almost like a locked jaw. And so I noticed that after using it a little bit, I was getting a little bit of that. But that seemed to be the extent of it. But also the reporting was that it was causing liver damage. But that was like, I think in like 1 to 2% of people who probably took it. And, there are probably also other variables that led to that. So when it comes to kratom, are there listed negative side effects that, largely outweigh, that largely outweigh maybe the positive effects of it?
I'm talking about the unadulterated products only. Constipation seems to be the main issue. And for that, like I take magnesium every once in a while, and that's how people mostly handle it. The kratom, if you take too much, you don't feel great. And so, like has its own safety thing. If you're just taking unadulterated products like I do, if I take too much, we'll throw it up. So it's kind of got its own little ceiling with it. So I would say constipation is probably the most. If people take too much of it, they get nauseous. The FDA did their own FDA funded single ascending dose study. And in that study, had you taken one dose up to 24 capsules of kratom, which was equaling 12 grams. If I took 24 capsules of anything, I would be nauseous, that capsule material. And that was the only thing that they experienced. And the people that were given I believe that we're not sure about this last part a little bit, I may have a couple of the nuances. The placebo people got nauseous as well. That many capsules, 24 in 5 minutes? That's a lot of capsule material. So there don't appear to be. Now, there could be negative side effects with interactions. We're still learning about that. but you check with your doctor. There are some medications, there are some instances like I can't take grapefruit juice with my cholesterol pill, and it could be dangerous for me. And I know that there are certain medications that I've read about you cannot take with kratom, so you have to make sure to talk to your doctor. I think we need to get the education out there so patients feel comfortable talking to their doctor about it. Now there are a lot of patients that are afraid that their doctors have bought into the clickbait, and so they don't want to talk to their doctor about it. So probably the highest negative effect is that people are afraid to talk to their doctor about it because all the misinformation out there. And I see that could cause some potentially bad issues because the doctor doesn't know their patient is taking it. And so they prescribe this, which they may not have prescribed if they knew their patient was taking kratom.
Now, where you're talking, are you talking to Congress to help with this issue?
Yes. Like I said, I was at the national press briefing. I was welcomed to the stage by the FDA commissioner and by the now DHS Secretary Mullen. I've been to the 2024 U.S. congressional briefing on it. Congressman Bergman from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, he's also a 3-star Marine general. He invited me to speak at the congressional briefing. I've been twice talking with legislators and regulators and scientists at the 2026 Kratom Scientific Symposium at the University of Florida Research Center, where there were scientists and regulators from each and every U.S. healthcare agency represented at some level. Not one person talked about a ban. What they did talk about was getting rid of 7-OH off the retail shelves. Now, I do think it should be available retail. Of course, I have my own opinion, but I do not have the scientific information or the regulatory expertise to know beyond getting off the retail shelves. I don't know where it belongs, but no one talked about banning kratom at the symposium, not one person. Our keynote speaker was Dr. Nora Volko at the National Institute on Drug Abuse, and she wants kratom kept inside the toolbox. Not that it's for everybody, but I mean, as I said, there are 75 million chronic pain patients, and there are many addicts, and it can help. It has helped some addicts, and I would love for you to have Misty Brown on your show at some time. She is an addict that kratom helped. And so at the federal level, they want to keep it in the toolbox, but because of all the misinformation, local and some state legislators want to take it out. And it's going to cause harm if they take it out of the toolbox.
So I know you're talking to Congress about this issue, and you're getting that pushback from Congress. Now, is it a pushback directly from Congress, or is it a pushback through representation, meaning through the people who, with misinformation, they're pushing back on it through Congress?
I would say it's mainly people pushing their legislator. For instance, I think it was 2019 in Michigan, a couple from the Upper Peninsula called a state senator in the far lower peninsula, southwest corner, about the adverse effects they had with their family. And so he filed a bill to make it Schedule 2. It just took 2 people. And because he ended up not being able to push the bill forward because he had some legal issues, the bill didn't go anywhere. And I remember in Utah, the same incident, and as soon as the legislator was educated about it, they took it out of the bill. They tacked it on to another bill that they had, and then after they were educated about it, they took it. Every adverse event, should be investigated. Every death should be investigated fully, because if kratom is involved, then how was it involved? Nobody can show that yet. And the vast, vast majority, and I'm happy to find you a scientist to talk about on a different podcast you can speak with, are polydrug. And people not talking to their doctor about it. If you hide information from your doctor regarding anything, that could cause even fatality just because you're withholding information.
Mm-hmm. So, I'm going to use a term that oftentimes is used in, not really in health, spaces, but often, in political spaces, and we use a term called agent provocateur, right? And agent provocateur,
Okay.
right? And I wonder to what extent, with the media misinformation around Kratom, and maybe again we don't have, I don't know if we have any proof of this, but is it possible that the government itself or certain agencies themselves are a part of that misinformation or providing information to purposely create misinformation around it, right? Because with kratom being something that could bring healing to people in a natural way, I wonder to what extent could it be seen as a threat towards the medical industry.
I would say before this past year, definitely, because our government participated in it. We've been able to keep moving forward, getting more and more science to where now they can't deny it, which is how we ended up in the press briefing stage. I mean, and I'm talking about today now, if they were really against it, why would they offer the stage? I had to clear my testimony with a representative from HHS and FDA. They knew exactly what I was going to say and invited me to their stage as a daily 12-year consumer. I think you're experiencing what we're experiencing now is a lot of leftover misinformation.
Mm-hmm.
The FDA specifically, NIDA, National Institute of Drug Abuse, they came on board that they were saying, we need to keep this in the toolbox. I'm not saying we recommend it, but for some people, it's a really great help. And we can't afford to take any tool out of the toolbox. I would say they came on board about 2021, 2022, because Dr. Volko gave a very positive kratom testimony at the U.S. Congressional in 2023, U.S. Congressional briefing on kratom. And she said, we need to keep that tool in the toolbox and put an HA on it. And she gave she had her testimony read into the record in 2024, the one that I participated in. Same positive stance. At the symposium just in February, same positive stance. So they've been on board for much longer than the FDA. I would say we're experiencing a lot of leftovers because people are anchored to all of that misinformation, and our legislators stay in office for so long now that I think we're moving forward slowly, getting rid of the misinformation. And the longer we can keep get rid of that, the longer we research, the more we can tell about those interactions and get rid of the stigma and the fear that people have about telling their doctor about kratom. So now I would say not so much, but we're still experiencing a lot of leftover misinformation effects.
So for those who are looking to work with you to, help, demystify some of, this information, what can we do in terms of helping with that?
There are two consumer organizations. I don't work for either one of them, but I work with them. And that would be the American Kratom Association, AKA, and the Global Kratom Coalition, GKC. And I think the AKA works more at the federal level in some of the states, and the GKC works more at the very local level. And then they have crossover. They both have crossover with the states because there are 50. I think just from what I've seen, it kind of looks like they're splitting them up, but I'm not quite sure how that's done. But look those up on the internet. I'm on LinkedIn. And I am on Facebook. Probably can't help you a lot on Facebook, but on LinkedIn, there's very little censorship. I only had one pushback on one post from like 3 or 4 years ago, and I haven't experienced any censorship on LinkedIn. So I would go to LinkedIn. And if you're a consumer, get on LinkedIn because that's where your legislators are at. If you want them to see your story and to see the science, get on LinkedIn because I have about 7,000 legislators on my connection list, local, state, and federal. So get on LinkedIn, connect with your legislators, check out your local city and county board meetings, their agendas, see what they're talking about. And I just think that we should be involved at the local level anyhow, regardless if there's something that we're upset about, because we need to be proactive instead of reactive. So just get involved, and I would be happy to set up with anybody with any state chats that I have available.
Perfect. Perfect. And, what I'll do is, well, I'm connected to a lot of podcasters within the health space. So I'll definitely connect you with them as well. So you can be on their show as well.
And I do work, both basically the consumer advocates. We are 4 grandmas. Myself, we're trying to keep our mobility for our family. See, we weren't able to be there for our family when they were growing up. So we want to be the best supporting parent we can be right now and grandparent that we can be right now. Laura Romney, she works a lot with the regulatory and she's a consumer for several years. Heidi Sikora, she's Dr. Heidi Sikora. She is a nurse practitioner and some other healthcare executive letters beyond her name. I don't quite know what they all stand for, but she's a pain patient too. She's actually have a house in 2 states because it's illegal where her other home is at. And then Misty Brown, she's another grandma, and she has founded for harm reduction. So, and we have John Shinhustler. He is an addict. He became an addict after he was in the military, and right now he is working on keeping Kratom safe and legal for veterans. So I can help anybody with any podcast. Doesn't matter which avenue your podcast wants to go down. I will find somebody for you.
Perfect. Well, Melody, thank you so much for this. Thank you for informing me of something that I had no knowledge of up until this point. And so, that's one thing that we wanted to really foster on this podcast, which is just having honest discussions around health. I can't tell you how many times I'll get a text or email from someone who says, hey, why did you allow, this person to be on your podcast and to say this thing and say that thing? I'm like, hey, I may or may not agree with them, but we have to have open and honest discussions about it. Right. And so that's what I kind of pride my podcast in. And I don't want to say any names, but, I've also had previous guests talk about, current guests. Like, why are you having that person on? I'm like, the same reason I had you on, so.
We have to open up discussions. Like I said, nothing is for everybody.
Right.
But we need to open up, like for a pain patient, I want them to know about it so they can talk to their doctor about it. Could this be something, since I'm on 11 medications that aren't doing much for me, could this be something that could help me this time? I have been to the Cleveland Clinic, and they were able to help me. I've been to the University of Michigan, head of rheumatology. They weren't able to help me. At pain clinics, they weren't able to help me. So it's helping people and media inside the toolbox, not out. With guardrails.
Yeah, man. But I definitely appreciate this. And, to our audience, I know you guys will appreciate this. And this is just me, Stefan, signing out, reminding you that choosing health is about choosing power, possibility, and purpose. We're finally here. It's week 52 of 52 Choices. We're saying to attach a new habit to something you already do daily. For example, after brushing your teeth, do 10 squats. After your morning coffee, journal for 2 minutes. This works because your brain already has a strong neural pathway for the existing habit. You're simply stacking onto it instead of starting from scratch. The science? Research by B.J. Fogg of Stanford shows that linking new behaviors to establish routines significantly increases consistency and long-term habit formation. This aligns with principles of context-dependent memory and automaticity. Your environment and existing actions act as triggers, reducing reliance on motivation. Small habit, same trigger, massive consistency.